Uh, he's done a 100K stadium run at Panchkula. He's done his NEB stadium run 100K. He's done his 12-hour triathlon challenge with podium and a full marathon with podium finish. He's also, had a terrific performance at Berlin Marathon in 2019 with the sub 300 4 times. He's done his Boston qualification. The recent one has been his 100K gold finish for the Asian OSHA Championship, where he represented India. I've had the opportunity of knowing HEMANT sir from last few years. Did a very small project with him for the school he used to work for. So thank you very much, HEMANT sir. And I would like you to introduce yourself, and then we'll take it up from there. So please, it's all yours, sir.
So thanks, Jatin. Thanks for having me with the entire team. So I work with Pathways as a wellbeing coordinator, and it was a privilege to know Jatin through school. And then he's been kind enough to, whenever I've invited him, he was always there to come up and, actually for strength sessions, for kettlebell sessions, and all certain areas which were never explored. And he was one of the people, those who initially inspired me to remain fit. And then through fitness, I came to running. And ever since that, I'm so hooked up to running that I'm enjoying it. I'm living it every day. So let's have a discussion on that, Jatin.
Sure. So you're pretty new to running. 2015, I would say not many years you've been running, and from starting shorter distances to doing ultras. Just take us through the journey of how you started and what has motivated you to, run these long distances over such a short period of time.
So I had this privilege of always being with the youth in school. So we had a teacher in our physical education department, and she was an amateur runner. So she used to do a lot of running. And then I saw one day she was taking a couple of my senior school boys out for a run. And they also invited me, and they said, let's see, sir, if you can finish a 10K run. And I joined them for a run over a weekend. And that time I was another, I think, 27 kg of what I'm right now. So I started my run, and then a lot of peer pressure and apprehension, able to finish this 10K. I don't want to be last while running that. And then I could see a lot of people, elder to me, a lot of female runners ahead of me. And I was like, all sort of, societal pressure was there. But then at the end of it, I was like, okay, fine, I have to finish in top 50, something like that. I had no idea what shoes, what GPS and watches, nothing. It was just like a debut 10K I did. And then post run, I was very happy with myself that at least without stopping in between, I could finish that. But I know that for I think next 10 days, like my legs were gone. And then I decided, like, I never felt that pathetic with my health. So I gave it a challenge to myself that first I need to cut down this, extra fat I'm carrying, and then I'll pursue running from there. And then I started actually training on my own just to, understand how should we go about running, and then, coming up with little mileage and certain variations and all. So that was there. Then post that, the second mistake I made was I registered for a 28K trail run. And over there, again, this peer pressure and all, and I fell down and, got hurt and all. So then I realized that actually body needs a lot of shaping and agility and all of that, because mind might be going in a right direction, but my, locomotives aren't supporting it. My legs are going somewhere else, and, it needs a major correction. And then I improved my diet, I improved my strength. And then eventually, it was 2017 when I decided that, okay, fine, I'll be attempting a good half marathon at that point of time. And then
so it took you 2 years to transition from a 10K to a half marathon, is if I understand that right?
Yeah, to a good half marathon.
Okay, so when you say good, what would be your definition be? Why I'm asking you this is because the population which is listening to this is a good population in terms of a mix where I have a couple of very experienced runners who are doing 5 hours and 6 hours runs, and we have fairly new runners also. So it'll be a
Right.
good benchmark for them to understand that what would be a good half marathon as per your standards.
So I remember during my training run, I finished my first half marathon. At that time, I used to use that app called as Edmondo or something. So it took me 3 hours from my place to from Pathways to go to Bachapur and come back.
Okay.
And I took a screenshot and I sent it to so many of my friends, and I felt like I've achieved the world. But then I witnessed ADHM, and I knew a couple of people, those who were very fast, like they were almost 90 minutes faster than me in finishing that distance. So somebody told me, okay, if you really want to improve your timing, you associate with them, you learn from them, you can ask for training schedule and all. But then somebody tried to help, but some of the wiser people said that my schedule won't fit you, so you need to have your own customized training plan and all. But then at that point of time, probably I was not mature enough to understand all of that. But with my personal, I would say, on ability to develop my training plan, I could do a sub 90 in 2017. So that was one of, but from there to come to cut down another 6 minutes, it took me another 6 months.
So what motivated you from transitioning from a 10K to 2 years to do a half marathon? And now we talk about 50 and 100 is like a very normal phenomena for you. And cities like Jaisalmer and the heat and so what have motivated you to transition into such distance?
So Jatin, I feel that nobody knows it better than you. The human mind is such a capable, I would say, instrument. We carry that.
Yeah.
Once we start doing it, our body has no limit to go in any direction. So it's just that it was an unexplored area, I would say. I used to do sprint during the school days, but after school, I don't think that I've done much of it. So it was just basic. Sometime I go to gym, sometime I played soccer and all, and then getting into job and then marriage and all that transition. So I think for good 10 years, I didn't do much about it. And when I ignored my health, then I could feel that what I used to feel, how lighter I used to feel during the school days. And over here, how pathetic it was to run those 10Ks. And then how I'm feeling lighter day by day when I'm continuously running and when I'm continuously improving myself. So altogether, it gave a different kind of kick, I would say.
Uh-huh.
And from there, then, of course, the appreciation of fellow runners, then your body signs also start supporting you, that okay, fine, now you don't feel that breathlessness, you don't feel that heavy, your recovery is faster. And then you start understanding more and more. It's like, in terms of meditation, they say that you, in the beginning, it looks very tough, but when you start settling in, then there is a path and there is a light, and the farther you go, you can see a little ahead, you can see little ahead. So that has been, I would say, an inspiration to me, that let me see if I can go there, let me see if I can go there. That's how it has been so far.
So do you have a number in mind and how many ultras you've done over the last so many years? Are you keeping account?
I only keep account of the good ones. So I've done so many even during the practice run. So now in the
Okay.
past 3 years, I don't remember
So,
like
so
how.
how do you plan? Because I know for an ultra you need many years, many months to train. Then of course the recovery phase. So how does your planning works? Do you plan event by event, or you look at a year and then say, okay, I'm going to pick these? So what goes in your planning structure?
Yeah. So when I actually started training formally in mid August 2017. So since then it was like, okay, fine. To begin with, it was one good half, one good full marathon. Then 18, it was like, okay, fine, I can do one event at every 4 months. Then it has become, okay, one good full marathon and one good 100K. So two events where I can say an all-out effort which satisfy my soul. Otherwise, in between all these 5K, 10Ks, half and all, so automatically, when you train for such a heavy event, I would say, or if you are eyeing upon something which still I consider this sub 3 population worldwide is not that large, and let's not get even into the number, but to wherever, whichever level you are, from there, if you see, okay, fine, now looking at this pace and this kind of training schedule and how much time looking at our profession we can commit to it.
Yeah.
So based on that, I felt that, looking at the family side, looking at the job side, looking at my vacations and all other thing, it is not just about running. Sometimes you feel like doing, okay, little bit of mountaineering, little bit of traveling, social engagements and everything. So keeping everything in as much balance one can draw. So I came to a conclusion that to myself, one half in the first quarter of the year, and on the second quarter of the year could be a one ultra. So that's how I designed my year.
Great. So how does your training calendar would look like if you periodize your complete training plan for a, let's say, 100K ultra? How would you plan it in terms of your mileage, how much miles you would look at, and how would you build up over time?
Yeah, so Jatin, it goes in two direction. One is so if I'm thinking of a full marathon happening, let's say in November or December, so I'll start building up mileage from, let's say, 60 kilometers to a 70, 75, 90, 100. So for a full marathon, I won't take it more than 120K. And out of which, closer to the event, I would say that there would be a two hard efforts. But
so when you say hard efforts would be at a race pace, covering how much distance would you be looking
so
at?
hard effort, I would say about 20% of the total mileage,
Okay.
where it could be a blend of, let's say, progressive run, or could be interval, or could be heat repeats, or could be, uh, uh, any or maybe some small surges, slow, fast, or something like this. Maybe sprintings. There could be uh, running with the weight, or at the different time of the day, like a time when I know that I have to run in that specific region and the climate would be like this. So I try to add some sort of heat training into my schedule. So a longer run, maybe at a slower pace, but during the heat hours, I would consider it as a hard effort.
So this would be roughly for, let's say, these miles would be for let's say a full marathon. Vis-a-vis when you compare it with an ultra, when you're talking about 100 kilometers, I'm sure the training plan and the paces change. So how do you make the switch?
So switch post that all out full marathon. So I give a break of, let's say, 10 days, and from there I start picking up again, and then retaining the same mileage where I was, and then from there again I start on slowly adding on the mileage and strength.
Okay.
So over there I would increase my strength session for an ultra, and along with that, those two, I would say, hard effort will come to a different kind of hard effort here. Here it would be like a Saturday Sunday long run. So that is one. Then secondary, it could be maybe a hard effort on a trail run. So just to have a variation of the muscle, and then secondary, it's running on the tired leg, and then within that, I keep on shuffling like which 10Ks I'll be doing at a race pace.
Okay. So you do trail runs, you do road runs, you do stadium runs. Out of the three, which one would you pick is your favorite? I mean, I know there are different reasons to pick a few, but what is your favorite is I would love to know.
So personal favorite is, if we talk about trails, so I would anytime love to run on Aravalli's trails, I would say, because I've tried trails outside on a higher altitude. So there we would need a lot of technical, I would say, hands and a lot of time to sink into those routes. and of course the pole training and a different kind of shoe sets and everything. But in the vicinity of Gurgaon or Delhi NCR, I feel that we are blessed with Aravali. So these are my favorite. Then I would say roads and stadium, I don't like at all.
Why is
It
that?
just that, those 400-meter and you have to take 251 or sometime more than that loops, because they're going to be at least 3% of standard error. So, another 10 loops to complete those 100K, and then it's really, a big mental challenge.
In my Zoom grid, the first three people I'm seeing are the three people who just recently finished the stadium run in Chandigarh. So guys, you're listening, Ramnesh sir, Rajat, Ruby, you're there, right? So they just did it. So they loved the whole experience. So I'm sure they'll think twice again. So you recently did the Jaisalmer 50K, and you did have a podium finish. I'm sure the temperature is what, 45 degrees plus, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it was 45 plus, but it feels like 50 plus. And then
Yeah, I'm sure with the heat. So how was your experience? I mean, I think more than physical, it was the mental torture you were gone through it. Share your experience with us. I mean, how did you prepare for it? How were you mentally ready, and how was the whole experience?
so see, from here, temperature over here in December will never go above 20 in any case. So I've been training here. Most of my runs were during the daytime. And then, of course, given the situation where I live, so I trained majorly in the trails and all. But when I went there, the thing which hurt me the most was the dryness of the location. So Jaisalmer was like, so over there, the one of the race condition was that you will not get any kind of hydration. So it was point to point hydration. So if you start from first K, so you have a hydration point there. So next will be at the 10K. Then the second will be at 20, the 30, then 40, then at the finish. So I was carrying my 1 liter water bottle, and I thought that I'll be able to manage within that, and I can refill it at those hydration point. But then I did not know that it's gonna be so harsh and it would be so dry that I'll end up consuming that 1 liter of my energy drink, or maybe my liquid intake within the first 5 kilometers, and I have to struggle that much. So that race start right in the noon time, like 12 o'clock was their starting time. So of course, one needs to ensure that you cover up your body well. So of course, you wear arm sleeves, and you have those proper, summer hats, or which can cover your spine and all, and glares and everything. And then you carry your entire food and water. So I didn't carry my hydration bag, and I thought that I'm capable enough to manage my run with a 1 liter of liquid. So I do blend my energy drink into that, and I was carrying my leaf gels. So I thought one gel and 1 liter of liquid will, will be enough for survive those 10K. And I started off well, and then for the first 25K, it was a sub 4 pace. And I think I made a major mistake over there, because that was the peak of the heat during that time, and body was fresh. So I flushed all my energy, and I took a lead by I think 5-7 kilometers, and there were a couple of very good runners out there. So that competitiveness, and then the whole year last year I didn't do any run, so there was no road run I did actually. So that frustration was also there, and I was like, okay, let me see how much I can thrive to this weather. But the post 25K, I felt that dehydration was a huge challenge with me. And I end up running with the 2 liter of distillery water in my hand, and I was like shifting the arms, and because it's not easy to carry that. But then one thing was in mind, that I'm not going to quit no matter how difficult it is. And certainly, I feel it's been almost 7 months I did that, but still the tanning is there. So you can imagine the kind of weather it was throughout the route. 90% of the route was like wind, and it was such a heavy wind that the harder you are trying, it felt like it is pushing you off. And then the location is like this, both the side is just endless desert. You'll not find even a human species. There was like complete patch where there is nobody, and you'll have all those feeling of mirage, and you can actually see that whatever you have read among those literature books. So that is becoming right. Like I could see, oh, somebody is coming. I can ask them for water. I can ask for this. Many a time it came to my mind like, okay, fine, that it is not a qualifier for me. So why I'm hurting myself? But then, of course, mind try to skip such kind of painful experiences. But I didn't listen to it, and I kept on pushing myself. Of course, the pace went down from 4 to 5 and to 5:30. And meanwhile, it was like till 40, 45 kilometer. It's like walk, run, walk, run, walk, run kind of a situation has emerged. But then I had a lot of lemon and a lot of hydration. So body could revive again at that time. Then I did pretty well in the last 5K. So
So,
that's how it was.
so has this been one of your toughest races, or you've seen tougher than this?
Toughest this then was see, Nakul, Nakul, I'm saying sorry. So Jatin, with me,
Yeah.
it's like when I know the distance, that then I can calculate in my mind. Okay, fine. The first 10K is for this. So for my mother, for my daughter, that's how I
Okay.
keep on playing. And for my wife, and I can always finish that up. But when it is like a time bound event, so you do not know how much you have to run.
Uh-huh.
So once I entered, and I entered to support somebody. That was like my first, I would say, ultra this thing, and it was a 12-hour trailathon challenge. So I went there to support one of another ultra athlete, and he said, "Okay, if you support me the first 50K, then that would be nice." And I went with him, and weather was good, and I enjoyed running. That happens in the month of Feb, and it was really good weather in the morning. And it rained in the morning, so early morning, and there was a lot of puddles and everything. And you've seen the route of trailathon.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a bike ahead of us just to show us the route, and we were so happy that coach Ravinder is kind enough that he deployed somebody, but that guy supported us only for the first 7K, and post that he's like, sir, ab aap jaiye. So now, through your breath, it's already in the cold, that smoke come out, and then you can't see anything, and that area is very rich in terms of wildlife.
Yeah.
So you could see those eyes shining through the bushes, and
Yeah.
the kind of noises they make. So one is that fear was
Yeah.
propelling you that you go faster. So for the first, I would say 50-60 kilometer, it was not hurting me. I kind of enjoyed it.
Mhm.
And post that, I could see that eventually all people, those who were doing full marathon, half and all, they have finished, and it's only 6-7 people are running. And out of 6-7, then they also start resting in between. And then the guy whom I was supporting, he said, now I'm tired and I'll not pursue it. And he kind of made a lot of personal pressure on me that you have to do it. So I continued. It was 108 kilometer. Then somebody told me the record for the trail was some 110 kilometer. So you still have this much of time if you can go for another round. And then they pushed me. So I ended up doing 112 something, and still I had 10 minutes left. So that kind of thing, I felt that they hurt me more, because I do not know like at what pace and how long I need to go.
Wow. So you started as a support for 50, you ended up doing the trail record, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't recommend that, Jatin. I don't recommend that, because post that for a few days I couldn't sleep. So
Okay.
people say I'm so tired I felt asleep. But when we go beyond the level of our imaginable tiredness, then every single cell was aching, and I couldn't sleep for many days, like, and
Yeah. So,
ankles swollen and
so,
whatnot.
so all these ultra races, all these ultra challenges, you're running in the wild, you're running in the desert, uh, uh, and they say it's a very lonely sport. So what goes through your head when you're doing this? I mean, what keeps on pushing you go to that next extra mile? I mean, how do you do it?
So when I first entered into ultra, I kind of made it a goal that I'll travel and run. So one is the reason, that's why I try to explore new areas every time to do an ultra or even a full marathon. So when we go to such a lonely areas, of course, that fear of uncertainty is there, that you do not know like what kind of wild life or any situation can emerge, and when you run through the darkness and maybe heels and all, so you do not know like what would be the next this thing. But all of this I have experienced, like post run, it brings a lot of lost instinct back in you. So it kind of revived that life force in you. So that has been a great anchor to me, which actually pulls me back to experience something like this.
I think it's great to hear. I mean, you're doing some crazy distances. So I wanted to get this discussion a little more technical in terms of, training is a very important aspect, which I'm sure you manage it really well. That's why you've been doing such good distances. How do you manage in these hours your hydration and nutrition? How do you support it? And how has the journey been in terms of your learnings and what you do today? So if you can just share your experience with us.
So initially, as I've shared, like I didn't know what to eat, what to drink, and so when somebody says hydration, so I always felt that it is just about water. Then I felt, oh, it must be about a lemonade. And then eventually during the runs, like those pro camps event and all, I got to see, okay, fine, there is something called as these energels and all these, I would say a little scientific energy drinks. And then there's something called as gel. I think in the third year of my running, I was first introduced, I was in TMM, and then I saw a couple of people were talking about how many gels you are carrying, what you'll have. You have salt pills, and they were talking about KT tapes and all. And I was like, never heard of all these things. I was like, I also want to try this. So somebody had an extra gel. So I was like, fine, okay. So when you are tired, now take it at that point of time. I was like, fine. So how to take it and all of that. But then it plays a very significant role. I remember I did my first full marathon TMM 2018, and it was 3 hours, 18 minutes or something. So I was preparing for a sub 3 at that point of time, and it was a training run for me. So the idea was to do it in 3:20:25, but with the flow, I felt that I'm not feeling tired and I could have continued. And then around 20:25, I felt that if I can push a little more, I maybe end up doing my not sub 3, let's say 3:05 or something, like I can uh, close to my qualifying time for the Boston. So I pushed myself, but didn't realize about anything about the hydration aspect. And then around 30:32, I bombed completely. And I started walking. I was puking, and I had nothing. And then thank God that there was some guy from uh, Ladakh. He was carrying something to eat with some local fruit, could be like a blend of I would say date or something added to that. So he shared his fuel with me. I had it, and then I ran with him a couple of miles, and then finally able to finish that. But then I realized that I need to dwell further into this area. So now I can say that for a 10-kilometer, at least you would need about 500 to 700 ml of hydration in terms of either energy drink. And then I also started understanding that how much calories you need to take. So at what pace we are going and in what weather. So how much sodium we are losing at that point of time, how much energy I would need, and for how long I would be running. So I need to keep my energy level up for these many hours. So for a half, it's okay to have 2 gels and 1 liter of in our North Indian condition. I would say that I can survive with that. But the same event happening, if it is happening in any southern part or in the central India, I would need at least 3 gels and maybe 1.5 liter of water. And if it goes to a full, I would again say it is not just double, but little more than that. So you need to know like what you would need pre-race, a day before the race, or the week before the run, or during the run, post run. So it has a lot of technical abilities, and I've learned it in a very hard way. Like I remember wherever I finished a hard effort, I used to puke a lot, and then a lot of GI issues were there. So I have to identify, and then I shifted from since 2018, I was a non-vegetarian, and then I turned vegan. So then again, a lot of limitation to the kind of food you can have, and then kind of gels you can have. So there's a lot of learning to that.
Mm-hmm. So today a race would look like what? Let's say if we talk about a full marathon for you. I know I mean not recently now, you've launched a fantastic gel. I'm a big user of that product, so I can vouch for it. I know a lot of others runners in our group also use it. So what does the today's full marathon would look like if you break this into a milestone of 10, 20, 30, 40? What would your
So,
hydration and your nutrition would look like?
so to me, Jatan, it starts a week before. So I first try out what I need to have during my long runs, during my race paces, during my hard efforts.
Mhm.
That okay, fine. How much I need to carry during the time, during the run, and I start tagging people. I start tagging to my team that who is going to support me during the route. If nobody is coming on the route, that how am I going to have enough of water, enough of gel, salt, everything. So in Delhi condition, of course, you'll find somebody who can support you from your team, and maybe after a first loop of a half marathon, on the second loop, somebody will pass on a hydration bottle to you. So that is one that I try each and everything which I'll be consuming during the race. I start using them during my training hours. That is one. The second is the last week is very, very important. Like how much more do we sleep, and what do we eat? We need to be very crucial of that. Then before the run in the early morning, that has been a kind of rule of thumb. It's a homemade smoothie. It's like 2 frozen banana, 4 dates, salt in it, and with water. I just take it 3 hours before the run, and even 1 day before the run, I ensure that electrolytes are intact. So I would take any ORS, or anything, maybe 2-3 coconut water, or maybe a 2 liter of ORS or something, just to keep my electrolyte level intact. And I'll take a salt cap before the run. And right 5 minutes before the run, I'll have a gel.
Mhm.
And then looking at the watch, no matter whether I'm feeling hungry or not, whether I'm feeling thirsty or not. So to me, it both ways. It has two things. One is that I carry my own water bottle with me. So that is one reason is, of course, I don't believe in use and throw plastic bottles. So I carry my own hydration, because I'm not dependent much on the organizer, because sometimes you do not get what you need. So carry your own gel, carry your own hydration. So you are less dependent on anybody else. And then along with that, at every 8 kilometer, which is like either it is 35 to 40 minutes, or the kilometer if I'm going faster. So I'll be having one gel. And then alternatively, let's say at every 10 kilometer, I'll have a one salt cap. Then followed this similar thing at the same, I would say, ratio, that again, if I had my first gel at the 7K, then I'll have my second gel at the 14th, then in the same ratio going to be at the 21st, then 28, then you know
So you're
34.
alternating a gel and a cap. If I
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would try to have at least 4 salt caps and about 5 to 6 gels.
Okay. 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 Great. Before we continue, Rachna, you have a question? You want to go ahead?
Yeah. So you don't have on a ultra run, you don't do any solid food or any type of anything else besides gels and salt
Salt
caps or
caps.
nutrition?
Yeah. So with me, one is that my gut is very sensitive, so it doesn't suit me. And usually I find that one is the kind of food is there, then the whole mindset is to finish the run faster. Like when I do my competitive ultra, so I try to save as much time as possible. So I'll try to have my energy through the liquid as much as possible. So I don't want to stop and eat bananas or potatoes or dates or any solid food. But if somebody is just want to finish, of course they can stop and eat. And there are people with a good appetite, then they can absorb it. But I felt with myself that I'll have a lot of burps and I have puke in between, and then a lot of GI issues. So I don't want to risk myself in that aspect. So I prefer to have more and more of liquid on which I train. So I see how do I need to complete my 250 to 300 calories per hour. So which means it could be a gel, could be 200, 300 ml of maybe any
energy drink,
juice or energy drink. Yeah, of course, energy drink. So that's how I try to balance myself.
And any recommendation on the salt caps you're using, which is working for you? I mean, just as a recommendation.
In India,
Univer is what we
only have Univer, but
yeah.
I am using caffeinated one because I personally believe that when we are running, so already our nervous system is automatically on an alert mode, so we don't need that much of caffeine to push ourselves further. So we aren't running on those kind of climatic condition where these are the challenges, or not to that kind of elevations and all. So I feel that a normal salt cap, or if somebody has an access to noon caps, which are worldwide considered to be one of the best. So
right. How would the strategy change for you in terms of, let's say, depending on which part of the country or the world you're running in terms of temperature? I know hydration will take a changed strategy in terms of more intake will go in hotter weather. How would you do in terms of nutrition? How do you plan that?
So even for nutrition, let's say if I'm doing 100K in Chandigarh, so I know that the weather condition is way nicer as compared to what usually Bangalore event happens in July or August.
Yeah.
So when there are clouds, it looks very good, but it gets really humid, and when there is a sharp sun, then it really kills you. So over there, I try to have max. I would say anything I would have is in a liquid form. So which means that even if I would need, of course, beyond an energy drink, let's say if I want to have something more solid, let's say if I feel like a lot of sweeteners are there, so I would need something salty. So what I do usually is that I make my own smoothie where, of course, the blend of banana with a lot of peanut butter, or some salty peanuts in it, maybe some cashew in it, and then I take a sip of it, not a lot of it, but then at every 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I'll have a sip of it, hold it for good 2-3 minutes, and slowly consume it. That's how I kind of sustain that.
So you try to, but again, it adds on not just gel, but you look at food also, which is of course not in chewy form, but more of drinkable form, if I understand it right.
Yeah.
Nice. Because we have a few triathletes here, and looking at a 6 to 7 hour nutrition strategy, these tips will be really helpful for them. So I think so. We have a few people in this group right now who are in this audience, and in our community, who are right now sitting on the fence that they've done their good strong halves, they're training for fulls, and they're still not understanding, should they go for an ultra, should they not? So what about you sharing 2 tips for them to make that leap and start that ultras and look at distances beyond full marathons? Good 2 tips which you would recommend.
So one is that they need to see that why they want to go for an ultra. So what is their why? Because unless you don't have a why, there are maximum DNF in ultras. Worldwide, if you see, anybody can finish even by walking. People can walk a half marathon. I've seen in Berlin, like there was a crazy crowd, but over there I've seen like people were finishing in 6 hours, 7 hours, and they were walking in at that point of time, like it was for $400. This Nike Next Percent was, newly launched, and people were walking in them. So I felt pity looking at that, what is the need of coming to an ultra if you have to walk it, coming to a full marathon if you have to finish while walking, right? So I would say that if your timing in your age group is considered as respectable, and you feel that, okay, now it is no more hurting me. So when I transiting completely into an ultra in a formal manner, at that point of time, I had that belief or that strength that I could run a sub 3 any given day. You wake me up without anything and you tell me, okay, fine, you have to do a sub 3, and I'll go and I can execute that. So when I was at that situation, then I told myself that, okay, fine, let me try if I can sustain this pace for 50 kilometers, for 60 kilometers, for 70 kilometers. And over there, it is not just that doing 100K just, double off a full marathon or something like this. Over there, we end up doing 3 marathons. So over there, the wall comes multiple times. And I've seen people like, over the years, I've seen people like world-class people I'm talking about. That they were, when I was out for my Asian Championship, I've seen the people, those who were ahead of world champion of 100K, the Japanese, there was a people from Japanese team, like they were running as fast as we might not be running our 5K distance. And like sub 4 pace, they were flying. And for 6 people team, there was only 1 person crewing them. Whereas for we Indians, we were 9. Yeah, we were 9 runners, and we had a crew of 6 members, and we had a dedicated physiotherapist and everything. And the moment you reach to your, station, so somebody is putting a, ice pack, somebody, kind of massage and ye khalo, wo khalo, and all kind of pampering was there. But they were so disciplined. They kept their, hydration bottle in the row, the 6 bottle in the row, a kind of a lamp. I don't know what they were carrying. They were having it. They were throwing it on the way. That's how they were managing. So I saw them, breaking down on the route when they were just 800 meters before the finish lane, and they couldn't survive those 800 meters. And that guy was faster than the present world champion of 100K. So it is not just about, how far we can go. You need to see that whether you have that strength in you that you can do that thing in a respectable manner. So so one needs to identify like what is your call for it. So you just want to be into that league that, okay, fine, I've done 100K, I've done 100 miler, and I don't believe that if I've done it 20 seconds before the cutoff time and I can call myself a 100K finisher. Your choice. And let me tell you that it is not about me or anybody else. Our body has so much potential that even if somebody starts at a 60 year of age, can do a sub 3, can do 230, can do a 100K in less than 7 hours. So it's possible, but of course, there is a scientific way to approach it and how much time you are ready to devote for that. When we see that Westerns are, so strong in some of the game, be it our Iron Man, like we all know that James, he finished the 101 full Ironman back to back.
Yeah.
So you go in his past. When I started running at that point of time, he was a beast. 5 years, 6 years back, also he was a beast.
Yeah.
He did some stuff even at that point of time.
Right.
So it is not a 1 year thing. When I spoke to these Japanese guys who were like, 7 hour kind of a finisher, and the best time has been like 6:24 or something. So you can imagine that how fast they are. Like,
yeah.
I would say half of the runner community won't finish their full marathon in that much of time, and they can finish 100K. But when I sat with them and I try to understand what kind of training they've been going through and how is their lifestyle. So guys, they are just phenomenal. Their discipline is phenomenal. They just believe the process. They don't do any kind of experimentation, and they don't do anything foolish, which we feel that, I'm trying out this. I thought this would work for me, or any excuse. No, they follow what have been served to them, and they have been doing it from past 16 to 20 years. So all the guy I met there, those who were running ahead of me when I spoke to them. So eventually, like, we were at number 2, but then one of the guy fainted and he couldn't survive those 800 meters. So he was exactly 10 kilometers ahead of me. So it was like, in order to win 100K at Asian level, 3 people need to finish that. So over there, only 2 of them could finish before us, and we 3 could finish before their 4th guy. So that's why we could win that. So when I understood the kind of time they devote to it, that is really phenomenal. I don't see that kind of dedication here. So that's why we do not have that kind of results.
Yeah, I think the training is a very simple process, as long as you can repeat what you did yesterday. It's repeatability. Once you start doing that, it'll change the game for us.
It's pure neuroplasticity, like, you know. Of course, in the beginning, it looks boring to everyone in this world. Nobody enjoy that routine. But eventually, when you actually love it, then that routine won't hurt you. And then how big your dreams are. And of course, even Bolt or anybody, even who say this guy Kipchoge or anyone, they all have their down, when they are not in their element, when they are not in the mood, and when they are not willing to run, and they do have their families, they have financial crisis, and they do have COVID, and everything is there, guys. The life is also not as good as what we see through their Instagram stories or their social medias. And they're not born with any extra, I would say, lungs or anything. Of course, there may be some 1 or 2% of physiological difference, but we including myself, that we lack in terms of that dedication and that love with the process. If we follow the process, nobody can stop us to achieve any goal. I would say any goal.
I think you've said my favorite word: follow the process. I think my team keeps on hearing this from me. So great. I think last 7 years you have been phenomenal, from a 10K to doing amazing ultras to Boston qualifications. I think the journey has been amazingly beautiful, which I've seen very closely. So what from here, Hemant? So where are we heading now? What are we planning?
See, Jatin, there are a couple of things I've learned in the process of running. Is that initially it used to be, first 3 years were just seeing people how they are running. So a lot of observation. Then to me, next 4 years it was me, my process. I go, I run, and I come back and I reflect that where I lagged, and then I improve from there. But since COVID, how I look at it is not just one person's journey. You would need a team. Like, that the kind of place I'm, and with the past 2 years, I don't have my students also. So, during my interval runs, what I used to do is I would deploy 4 of my students in the field, and I would say, okay, fine, I'll do my 1600, I'll do my 1 miler, and then 4 of you will do a relay with me, and let's see if you can beat me. So that was the kind of challenge I used to put for myself. And there used to be cross training in form of swimming, some sort of cycling and all. But the past 2-3 years, it has not been, that easy. So I've realized that, you have to build up that community also, those who can give you that kind of competition, who can give you that kind of, life juice, I would say, which brings you back to that thing. You just can't go all alone.
Yeah.
And in the sports like triathlon and all, you would need your team, man. Like,
absolutely,
solo cycling, solo swimming is so very difficult in the
absolutely
place we are in. So how are we supporting each other in a larger community? So since then, I have tried in the past 2 years, I would say, I start opening up to the people and start participating in decent forms where we can share our thoughts. And of course, LEAP is one of the way. It is not just about having a world-class nutrition, but also through LEAP, how can we support some underprivileged athletes with the scientific training, whatever knowledge I have or my teammates have, or the athletes or the brand ambassadors we have, how can we contribute back to the society is one. And secondary is from here, how can we change the sports scenario in India?
Yeah.
So as a you know, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of awareness, a little bit of, I would say, capacity, how can I support somebody? So then I started a little bit of coaching, that with the group where I train with. So that is there. And of course, I'm trying to sharpen my goals further. So let's see how much I'm able to penetrate further into it.
Nice. I'm keeping a very close watch on you, and I'm sure you're going to do some great stuff. So I wish you all the best. I'm sure COVID is just a little small blockade for all of us, but I'm sure you're going to do some better and greater achievements from here. I think from here, I think that is all I have for you today. But I would like to open the forum to all the athletes and participants. If you have any questions for Hemant in terms of your preparation, in terms of anything you want to tweak a little bit about his trainings and about his achievements. Guys, the forum is all yours.
Don't hesitate, people, please. If you'll not buy anything which probably me and Jatin might have missed upon, so
yeah,
an opportunity we can discuss, or maybe you can share something which probably I might have missed, and then I'll learn and I can implement into my trainings or maybe my larger goals.
Hi Hemant, Abhishek Grover here. Hemant, you talked about your nutrition during your long runs, but how about your nutrition during your regular days, during your regular training days? So how does a typical day look like in terms of eating for you?
Yeah, so I try to keep my workouts in the morning, and then I try not to have anything before the run, but yes, during the run, yes, I do carry my 1 liter of hydration bottle, and depends if I have a progressive run or an intervals or a ladder intervals or a hill repeats. So I do consume one small sip of it at every kilometer, 2 kilometer. So that is one. Then if I feel that the workout going beyond an hour, I will consume a gel over there. And if it is a long run, then certainly the number of the gels will increase. I may consume half a banana before the run, but usually I prefer that I go empty stomach for my run. And so that is during the run. Post run, of course, within half an hour, I do my little bit of physio, all stretching and all. So post that, of course, I'll have my plant-based protein, then followed by any vegan breakfast I can think of. So for me, the regular or my staple food is either, homemade tofu sandwich, or it could be this besan chila, or it could be oats with a bowl full of soaked dry fruits and a fresh juice. So this is what I consume for my breakfast. Lunch is regular, chapati, dal, and a lot of salad. And of course, fruits as a snacks in between whenever there is a hunger pain. So I'll try to have fruits during that point of time. Then if sometime I do any sort of cross training in the evening, then again supplemented with some kind of fruits. And then a dinner, a regular dinner, maybe some sort of vegetables and little bit of rice. I try to keep my dinner a little lighter as compared to the breakfast and lunch. And I personally feel it is not important how much you can eat, but what is important is that you should be able to digest what you eat. Because I've seen with most of the people, and coming from a little bit of gym background and all, where we've been kind of come with the mindset that you eat 8 egg white, 12 egg white, so much of protein, so much of this and that. So that technicality would not help us because we aren't playing at that level. So of course, if you have a dietitian, certainly you can consult them. But I personally feel that you need to, by experimenting and all, you need to identify what suits you, what makes your gut happy, what gives you freshness based on the taste and this thing. I'm not more of a taste guy, so I'm okay to eat one thing every day uh, since childhood. So that has been a little easy for me. So my family is able to tolerate me for so long. Otherwise, if I'll demand everything new thing on a every day, probably they'll also feel a bit challenged to that. But then you need to identify that your energy intake and absorption of that is matching or not.
Thank you so much, Hemant. This is really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Abhishek. Prikshit, you have a question, please? Prikshit?
Hi, sir. Hemant, sir, the question is like you
Call me Hemant first, then I'll answer.
During the run. And I want to know, have you ever tried training or do you advise training your body to run on a lesser fuel or lesser hydration?
I'll come to that. So what happened is there is a different training schedule. Like, of course, when we were going to Jordan, so we know that the climatic conditions are very different. The temperature variation in the morning, it was 6 degrees, and the midday it was like 35 degrees. So you can see the 30 degree of variation, right? So you need to train according to that. Like if you are going for a half or a full, so you need to see that access to the hydration point. But yes, after 5-7 years of me into running, now I do one run in a week without water, without anything. Like I would call it a fasting run. So I start doing it right now, but I won't recommend it to somebody who's very new into it, because there has been chances while running in the trail, I kind of miss the route, and I started with the belief that I'll just do a 10K and I can come back in 45 minutes, 50 minutes, I'll be back home. And then it took me 2 hours sometime to identify the right path and to come back. So it's always, I always suggest in the beginning, you must carry some sort of snacks and some hydration. Whether you use it or you don't use it, that's a different situation, but you must carry it. But yes, I can't recall, there is a specific protein, they say, that which gets synthesized in our body when we do fasting runs, and of course which comes with the heat training. So we usually do that in the last month of the training, like before the run, I would say the last 15-20 days, then I do 1 or 2 heat runs every week.
I mean, just to add a little technical part to it, it's also a good fuel utilization where the body learns not just to get the energy from carbs, but also start utilizing from fat. That is where the fat burning happens and the energy burst is more. So yeah, as a runner, but again, remember what he said, it was after 5 to 6 years of running. That means an experienced runner where he adapted and the body was well tuned, not a beginner where you're learning a 5K or a 10K and you start doing empty stomach. Then I think you're calling for trouble.
I was listening to a podcast, and it was like people have died due to dehydration, and then these were the races like Sahara Desert race and all, and Gobi Desert race, where it was a pathetic experience one had, where one has tried to survive on his own blood or on his own urine, and then end up dying due to dehydration. So we must carry it, but then it's your choice. If you want to experience it, at least if situation becomes difficult, at least you have an access to it.
Right. Thanks, Hemant. Prisha, does it answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Great. We have a question from Priyanka. She says, she heard you mentioning about running with weights. So she was interested to know a little bit more, if you can touch up upon that. that what you meant with that. How can we
So
incorporate in our trainings?
Just to thrive further on in the pain zones, just to see that, okay, fine, if I have to run a half marathon, so how can I run it on a tired legs? How would it feel? So just to have an extra burden sometimes. So maybe I either run in the sand, or either I wear ankle weights and then I run for a 10K or something like this.
Okay. Okay. And would that be like a moderate pace or race pace, or would you do?
Forget about race pace. If somebody try to do it in the race pace, you can do it only for 6 to 7 seconds. More than that, you are damaging.
Yes, exactly. That's why I wanted you to touch that point, because I know it gets my biomechanics changes when you wear ankle weights and you start running. It just changes the whole mechanics. Good. I'm glad you changed. Great. Kavi, you have a question, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Coach sir. And Hemant sir, it was really great to listen from you and your experiences. I already had a lesson learned that is about the nutrition, and my coach also suggested me to have at least the salt tablet, because I have been running marathons empty stomach, just on the water. So thank you very much for the insight. Now the question I have, and I will not dare to guess your age, but I can share mine. I'm 43, and right now my recovery is really poor. So I just wanted to understand, with your experience, did you have such phases during last couple of years when your recovery was poor, and then you tried and overcome that?
Yes, Kavi. So it happens due to 2-3 things. And coming from the psychological background, I feel the maximum energy consumption is through eyes and our stress level. So it could be in any form. So you need to identify that stressed or the stressful area of your life, and you need to sort it out. That is one. So at time, you have to see how many hours of healthy sleep you are having. That is very, very important for anybody, no matter at what level we are playing, because that has not been a part of our routine since childhood. So if we see these Ethiopians, those who are covering 100 miles, 180 miles as a mileage, and at that crazy paces, because that has been there since they are born. Like this guy Joshua and all, who's recently, I think world's fastest K and world's fastest half marathon on all these people. So they've been doing it since they were 5 years, 7 years, 8 years. So we have to see that. Then second is, of course, whether you actually do any kind of foam rolling, or what are you doing in order to let go of the soreness, and how do you open the nodes of your muscles post a workout. So how much time do you spend in your stretching? How much time do you spend in your strengthening? And then at what duration you take your recovery meal.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And in that meal, what are you having? So again, I don't want to force veganism on anybody else, but I felt that it has actually elevated my performance by at least 25% to say, because it made my breathing process very easy and recovery very fast. So we need to see that the kind of food we are having, are they supporting our recovery? Are they easy to absorb, or are they so complex that body takes another stress to digest them? So we have to see that, is it a simple food or is it a processed food? So
thank you very much, sir. I think eating has been a task for me, so I need to relook the whole thing once again. But again, thank you so much. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Kavi. I think anybody else has any question? Abhishek, I see your hand up still. Was it for the previous question?
No. So I have another question.
Okay, please go ahead.
Hemant, any major injuries that you've had so far since the time you started? And what is your mantra to keep yourself injury free? You answered part of it, but anything as in that you've incorporated in your daily routine to keep yourself injury free?
yeah, so I had a lot of injury, and that's why I have become a true believer in the process, and a scientific training. So now I don't experiment with myself. at 7 years of my running, I still have my coach and I do discuss each and everything with him for everything, like how much I need to add on to my mileage, to my speed, the kind of workouts and everything. Like I would want him to scan my training schedule, my diet and everything. Like, so that is there because an injury start either maybe, you know, losing a toenail to, you know, a knee injury, and, you know, the body is so fragile and a little wrong twist can take you out of the game for a very long time, and then to recover from that, and then we human beings are quite greedy that we do not have patience to actually handle our. So best way is to do proper strength training and proper stretching. So if your body has a lot of flexibility supplemented with strength, then you can avoid injury and then it becomes more sustainable. So usually what happens is, given any workout, if you're training for a, let's say, triathlon, or if you're training for a run, so what happens is we enjoy that part of thing. Okay, I love swimming, I love cycling, I love running, but I don't want to spend, you know, half an hour extra to do these lunges and, you know, weight training, and this is so boring. Who will do planks and all? So I do not have time for all this, and we kind of wind it up in 5 minutes, just do one set of it and kind of ignore it. And then there's a accumulated fatigue in that, and then there's a accumulated, you know, soreness and all, and the muscle shortening, and then we do not know, like it can trigger between the event or before the event. So I've met a couple of people, being fortunate enough to meet people, those who have played at a very good level, and then they say that, you know, of course, if you retain your flexibility, if you are eating well, and if you are doing your strength training, that is the only mantra which plays role for anybody who's into any form of physical activity.
I think this sounds music to my ears, all these points. And I think we've been harnessing on these 3 pointers. I think, and you've touched exactly what I want to hear. This is fantastic. I think. Abhishek, does it answer your question, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
Great. Preekshit, you have your hand up still. Do you have another question? Okay, I think, Preekshit, do you have another question? No, I think he's gone. Great. Anybody has any other questions? I don't see any more hands up. Yeah, Rachna, please go ahead.
Do you use any compression socks or tights either during your training or like post for recovery, like massage guns or anything for recovery?
Post event, I don't think so it is recommended, because already body has gone through so much of beating, so we should avoid it at least for a week, because the tissues have gone, you know, to that extent of stretch and pain and everything. So we should not. Of course, before the run, 2-3 days before the run, massage can be done. Compression, I have tried only 2-3 times, and that is like when I'm doing 100K, and then at the 60th or 70th kilometer of the event, but not in the very beginning. And there is no scientific evidence that they do support. So it varies from individual to individual. Some wear it, some don't. So during the trail run, I would wear them just as an extra, I would say, support system. But in the normal run, the city runs, I would say I would not recommend that.
Ruby, do you have a question as well? I see you raising your hand, but yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. First of all, very awesome credentials. Congratulations. And I think you pretty much covered in context of running, what's the right thing at the right time. Very basic question. Do you follow the 10% increase mileage rule for the week, or do you go overboard?
So depends, like what is the goal like and how much time do I have. So sometime what happened when you play at a national level, and then there is an event where your federation wants you, or one of your sponsor wants you to perform well, or your team wants you to perform well, then in those areas, of course, I have played a little bit, but not more than 15% in those areas, and not in the beginning of the game. I would again say that not in the beginning of the game. So now I know my range of training is what? To me, anything till 130K per week won't hurt me. So I can take this much. So between that, if I'm 70 or 80K, and if I think that, oh, now from here I need to go to 100K or 120K, I will elevate it, of course, in terms of 15%. But then from 130, if I have to go for 100 mile per week, then I will not change the principle. Rather, I'll be more conservative and I'll keep it at 8% at that point of time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Hemant.
So initial 4 years, no experimentation with that, unless your body tells you that you have much more in you, and then your coach will automatically identify that now with your pace, with your recovery, with your movements, with your energy and efficiency. The more can be added to your plate, they'll automatically do that.
Sure.
Great. Thanks for the question, Ruby. Thanks, Hemant. I guess, guys, this is the time we have for today. Hemant, once again, thank you very much for coming in, sir, and sharing your amazing journey, and wishing you all the best for your coming future races, and we look forward to see you shine and give us some amazing results. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for joining in. See you guys soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Good training.
Thank you so much.